So I promised it earlier this morning with the Jimmy Garoppolo news, 49ers comp pick benefit, 49ers Raiders joint practice excitement. I said that we're Deommodore Lenoir days away from 49ers training camp report day. And by that, I mean we're 2 days away because Deommodore Lenoir has a new number 2. This is still an old picture from Matt Barrow's old article in January. That's back when Lenoir was wearing a double-digit number. He's going to be in the single digits this year at number 2. So we get to talk about Deommodore Lenoir days away, 2 days away from the 49ers reporting, their veterans reporting to the facility for training camp. I'll be reporting to the Bay Area tomorrow. And then on Tuesday, we've got to be there with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan as the players report. Wednesday is going to be the first practice. But as you know, I've done a lot of traveling this offseason. And as you also may know, Deommodore Lenoir calls himself the hyena. I saw a hyena on some of my travels. We were in the Serengeti Plain in Africa, and we saw quite a few hyenas. We also heard several hyenas outside the tent, but there you go. There's the hyena. Deommodore Lenoir calls himself the hyena. Funny animal to really model his game after, but Richard Sherman, one of Deommodore Lenoir's mentors, talked about it and said that it was fitting for the new number 2 on the 49ers. And a lot of his teammates think it's fitting. The 49ers called Deommodore Lenoir a pit bull, calls himself a hyena. And I mean, these things, they're scavengers and they're vicious. And we're going to read a little bit from Matt's article here in just a second, because this is just too good to not have our attention cast to it. So here we go. Add it to the stream. Here's Fred Warner on Deommodore Lenoir. He's willing to go down there and get his nose dirty in the run game to tackle guys physically, regardless of his size. That's why people call him a pit bull. He'll call himself a hyena. Whatever you want to call it, he's a competitor. Richard Sherman. It's hilarious because if you think about life, nobody ever picks the hyena. But it makes sense because he's just a scrappy kid. There's no job too dirty. There's nothing he won't do to get the job done. Whatever it takes, the hyena's eating. Hyenas might hunt, but the majority of the time, they're scavenging. And I can tell you what, these when you hear hyenas at night, when you're staying on a tent here in Africa on the Serengeti Plain, these guys are vicious indeed. And they'll eat some of their prey alive, I think, if it's still wounded down on the ground. Deommodore Lenoir has that kind of scrappiness to him on the football field. This was a video that was posted earlier this offseason of him just working on his craft, nice and quick. You could see the confidence is there, blanketing receivers in the offseason. And, this is just so important for the 49ers that his confidence is moving on up and up, because the defense is only as good as its worst cornerback, right? Because a team is going to pick on the cornerback that's not as good as the other cornerback. And Charvarius Ward is, I think, a top 10 cornerback in this game. So last year, Deommodore Lenoir, over the first, I think, 10 games of the season, maybe 11 or 12 games of the season, he had given up a passer rating of over 100 into his coverage 7 times. So throughout the season, 7 times. And I think all of those were concentrated in a pretty close quarters there over the first 3 quarters of the season or so. Over the playoffs, the passer ratings that Deommodore Lenoir allowed into his coverage were as follows: 20.8, 39.3, 39.6. Those are all lousy numbers for opposing quarterbacks. The guy started to deliver consistent interceptions in the postseason. And when you talk to Lenoir, he'll say that he just got comfortable locating the ball in the air. You couldn't pick on him deep anymore in the postseason. And then he started reading some routes. And, of course, he had the big interception of Dak Prescott against the Dallas Cowboys early in that game. That really set a tone. He did a really good job, and so did Charvarius Ward in the NFC title game. There was hardly anything against the 49ers' top corners. In fact, the Devontae Smith non-catch that was a catch that Kyle Shanahan should have challenged early in that game, that came against Jimmy Ward, the nickelback. It didn't come against Deommodore Lenoir. It did not come against Charvarius Ward. So the 49ers got really, really good corner play from Lenoir down the stretch of the season, and I can't emphasize enough how important a Deommodore Lenoir, confident Deommodore Lenoir is for this 49ers defense. And there's a reason why we're playing the tape of the hyena that I got with the very same iPhone that I get tape of the 49ers warming up with, that I'm going to be using out at training camp here in a couple days, because the hyena is going to be so important to the 49ers defense. All right, let's open it up to a bit of a Q&A. This is going to be fun. We can talk about the 49ers defense here. Hopefully no dumb quarterback questions. As you all know, I do get sick of those. 49ers Q&A time. Let's talk about it. Who was number? Jason Verrett was number 2 last season, but Jason Verrett never saw the field last season. So now Deommodore Lenoir has taken number 2. Yes, we are creeping up on 40K, and the goal throughout the whole offseason has been to get it right before training camp. And look where we're at right now. We're what, like 100 away? I think less than 100 away from 40,000, and we can get it before the 49ers report on Tuesday. So if you're watching right now, smash that sub button. The like button is nice. Hit that too, but smash the sub button. You can also leave a comment. Who do I have returning punts and kicks? Well, for sure, Ray McLeod back there on punts. We'll see what the 49ers do on kicks. The rules seem to continue spiraling toward less and less kickoff returns in the NFL. So we'll see what the 49ers do there. Depends on who makes the roster. I think if somebody like Deshaun Jameson, the undrafted free agent defensive back out of Texas, who's got some electric return tape, if he's available to the 49ers, he's going to get some looks as a return man. But as far as veteran dependability at the more dangerous return position, as far as potential turnovers that could detonate games, I guess they're both dangerous. The 49ers saw kick return cost them a lot in 2021, but punt return is where you have to have a steady hand, and that's going to be Ray McLeod. Wow, Todd, thank you. Appreciate it. He doesn't really have a question, so we just say thank you to Todd. Todd K, frequent viewer or listener if he's only watching. So the pre-training camp battle, Barbie versus Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer in an absolute landslide. Oppenheimer was a lot better than Barbie. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I did see both. I participated in the Barbenheimer ritual of this weekend. Did you know that Barbenheimer actually has its own Wikipedia page? This is an actual phenomenon. And to prove it to you, I can add it right here. Barbenheimer, the internet phenomenon that began circulating on social media prior to the simultaneous theatrical release of 2 blockbuster films, Barbie and Oppenheimer, due to their greatly differing tones and subject matter. I will confirm that the tones and subject matter of these 2 movies was very, very different. Saw Oppenheimer first on Friday, saw Barbie today. And when you watch Oppenheimer first, I think you do it right. And I think that's what they recommend with Barbenheimer. You want to watch the heavier movie, the more depressing movie first, and you want to lighten it up as the weekend goes along. But definitely Oppenheimer, the winner in my book in this Barbenheimer phenomenon. And did you know that, Christopher Nolan directed Oppenheimer? He used to work for Warner Brothers, or used to make a lot of, not for them. He used to make a lot of movies for Warner Brothers, but fell into a dispute with Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers is the production house that made the Barbie movie. And Chris Nolan was upset that Warner Brothers wanted to move to all streaming in 2021, and Chris Nolan likes to see his movies up on the big screen. So he let Universal be the movie that made Oppenheimer, because Nolan he wrote Oppenheimer, he was the director, did all that. And after this dispute with Warner Brothers, which made Barbie, supposedly Warner Brothers released Barbie on the same weekend as Oppenheimer as retribution against Chris Nolan. That's been rumored. They say that Chris Nolan was a little peeved, to put it lightly, that Barbie came out on the same weekend. I don't know if that's been substantiated, because you read a lot of stuff on the internet, but I just find this whole phenomenon to be really, really interesting. It was the busiest weekend at the movies in quite some time, and I got to go see both of them. Unrelated, is it coincidence that the Niners ex-coaches have all gotten head coaching jobs in the AFC? Oh, that's you're trying to say that they're trying to get away as far away as possible from the 49ers, or that Kyle Shanahan has maybe told them take an AFC job and don't play against me? I don't think it's coincidence. I think that's where jobs have opened up. I think that it would have to be a much larger sample size to establish that this is something that's not coincidental. Do I ever see myself moving from talking about football to working in football in some capacity? Yeah, I haven't really thought about it, to be honest. If somebody approached me with an idea of how I can work in football and it was a cool opportunity, I probably would consider it. But since that hasn't happened yet, that isn't something that I have considered. Do I think this defense can be better than the 2019 one? Absolutely. They've got Javon Hargrave, and the 2019 defense had DeForest Buckner, but I think Hargrave is a better pass rusher. Now, 2019 had D Ford, but only for about half the season. So I think that this team needs a really good edge rusher. They don't need a dominant one. They need a really good edge rusher, though, opposite Nick Bosa. And if they can do that, they're more mature at the linebacker level because Fred Warner was only in his second year. Dre Greenlaw was a rookie in 2019. And I think the 49ers are better at corner. I mean, we're talking about the hyena again, Deommodore Lenoir. We're talking about this guy right now, right? And he really, really came on to begin or to end last season. And obviously, you've got Charvarius Ward, who's younger than Richard Sherman. Sherman was good throughout the 2019 season, but probably did run out of some steam. So you look at the 49ers defense top to bottom, the only position where they're definitely worse at full health than that 2019 team is the edge rusher position opposite Nick Bosa. So Drake Jackson, step on up, right? Cleveland Farrell, step on up. There are a lot of opportunities for the 49ers. And I mentioned when Larry Krueger was on the other day, there's never been a platform for an edge rusher number 2 to have more success thanks to the guys around him than there is with this 49ers team. You've got Nick Bosa. You've got Eric Armstead. You've got Javon Hargrave. That last spot, they're not going to face a double team all season long if everybody around them stays healthy. So it should be a good situation where the 49ers can really shepherd in that secondary edge rusher. He's not going to have the focus of the world on his shoulders. And I think that's what the 49ers are banking on. And if that happens, if that second edge rusher does produce thanks to the situation that he's put in, well, then the 49ers can have a defense that's better than 2019. Who? Oh, so you meant to ask a question? Oh, who do the 49ers pick up? Oh, okay. So, sorry. Yeah, well, I think the 49ers will right now they've got about 10 million, so they don't have a whole lot. They might pick up somebody before the deadline. They're going to keep themselves full of option power. That's how the 49ers like to work. They can carry over the cap space that they don't use this year to next year when it's a really crowded situation and you need a little bit of money for in-season maneuvers in case guys get hurt and you have to sign new players. So I don't think the 49ers necessarily pick anybody big up right now. They might, when the time comes, try to sign an edge rusher, but it might not be a marquee name. I know Yannick Ngakoue is still out there. You've got names like that. Again, I just finished talking about the edge rushers. They don't need to do anything unless it's proven that they actually have a large void. And if the edge rusher opposite Bosa can't succeed with the platform that he's been given with Hargrave and Armstead and Bosa on this team and the secondary behind him, if Drake Jackson can't succeed, I think you've got a problem there, right? And in that case, you might pick somebody up. But the chances of that second edge rusher being complete crap, given what's around him, aren't very big. So I think the 49ers are smart to think about filling that position organically and saving that money for next year. All right. That's great. I am going to get going. Next week, we are going to be heading out to training camp. So I guess the week technically starts on Sunday. I'm flying out to San Francisco tomorrow. More shows coming, though, tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening. Maybe a special live when I land at SFO around 9 to 9:30 tomorrow night. So be ready for that one. In the meantime, everybody hit that sub button. We got to get to 40,000 before the season starts. Thanks again. It's been fun talking about the HYENA Deommodore Lenoir. One more time, the hyena. Everybody take care.